Dyslexia in Theatre, An Insider's Guide, audio version, written and read by Emma Tompkins. The next time you are in a space with more than 10 people in it, look around. The likelihood is that at least one of them will be dyslexic. The next time you are in a theatre space on the first day of rehearsals, it's almost a guarantee. Also, it might even be part of the reason they've been hired. Dyslexia goes by a few names. It can be referred to as a learning difficulty or a learning disorder. It's considered part of the neurodivergent family, a large brood that includes other connected disorders like dysgraphia, dyscalculia, dysnomia or dyspraxia. It's also comorbidity cousins with developmental disorders such as ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. It is also a quality that, according to an informal survey held by Scene Change, is likely to be present at double the national average in designers. But what is it, and why does it seem so prevalent in theatre? If you want to go by its formal explanation, and just to warn you, the rest of this article is an ode to why you shouldn't, it literally translates to dys, meaning bad or difficult, and lexia, meaning pertaining to words. So a dyslexic is bad with words. I'm dyslexic, and I've just written this article and created the phrase comorbidity cousins. Am I really so bad with words? That's not to say words haven't bested me for most of my life. Yes, they were worried about my development at school. Yes, my essays came back riddled with red lines and comments through my spelling and grammar. Yes, English was my least favourite subject, and yes, I still struggle today. But the real lead, buried deep in decades of poor awareness, destroyed confidence, and lack of training, and the thing I want to scream from the rooftops, is the fact that dyslexia has also allowed me to excel. A few things to know before diving into dyslexia in theatre. Dyslexia is a buffet, not a set menu. You can be dyslexic and be able to read but struggle with writing. You can be dyslexic and be able to write but struggle with reading. You can be dyslexic and struggle with both of these and so much more. The buffet is not opt-out. The strength of the dishes will vary, and there will always be the prawn crackers of poor memory, questionable grammar and typos already waiting on the table. But we are all unique. We all express our neurodivergence in our own unique ways. It's so much more than what we do, it's how we think. Scientists are still trying to understand dyslexia's cause. A popular theory is that it is connected to the cones in our eyes, receptors that take in light and colour. Apparently we receive these things a bit differently. It's also thought that our processing is different. We store things through slightly different routes and in slightly different parts of the brain. The difficulties with spelling, grammar and memory are examples of many symptoms these brain differences give us. The reason we all think dyslexia just means that you can't spell is because of all the qualities dyslexic thinking gives you. The ones that are flagged up earliest are the difficulties encountered when we hit the education system. The challenges dyslexics face end up defining dyslexia because it takes a lot of observation to realise proficiencies and difficulties could be connected. Dyslexia is also a superpower. This might sound odd, even to fellow dyslexics, because it did to me before someone let me in on what they don't tell you in school. But it's true. Dyslexia is both kryptonite and the ability to fly. Dyslexic people excel at things like three-dimensional thinking, empathy, problem-solving, bigger picture thinking, creativity and ideas. We can flip objects around in our heads as easily as we can flip a P with a B when we read. We don't think in linear ways thanks to the differences in our brains, but whilst that often comes out as saying stage managers when we meant to say salt and pepper, something I did last week, and losing our keys 3 times a day, it also is how we find poetic language to explain our ideas, how we solve problems when the linear route doesn't seem to work, and why we smash it out of the park when we play the board game Articulate. History is littered with dyslexic scientists, creators and entrepreneurs. And what's the thread that links these people? Creative problem-solving ideas. For dyslexics, English is our second language. Kind of. The brain function needed to communicate and understand in our mother tongue has been scientifically shown to match that of a neurotypical person attempting to communicate and understand in a second language. By the way, neurotypical means someone who doesn't have a neurodivergence. Dyslexic brains are engines going at 40 miles per hour in first gear, and we tend to think this quickly naturally, but it means that our brains get tired sooner. Tiredness is considered a trigger for dyslexia, but in truth, if our brains have no petrol left in the tank, they will run at our most basic level, one that might not come across as totally accurate or comprehensible, and our behaviour will match. Diversity is the dance group, divergent are our brains. Neurodiversity refers to everyone. We are all different, so are our brains. Neurodivergent refers to those who have brains that are so different they count as significantly divergent from the standard range of neurodiversity present in the population. In neurodiversity terms, if people who don't have neurodivergent brains range like the different types of chocolate in a celebration tub, we are quality street. There is a little blurry bit where people use neurodiverse to describe neurodivergent, because it sounds a bit more palatable. It's not great, but it exists. But if you are ever using it formally, it's neurodivergent. Teachers aren't always trained to spot students with learning difficulties. The current PGCE training scheme does not include neurodivergent awareness training. Thus, when dyslexia is first encountered, it is seen as a problem, meaning from the beginning we are front-loaded with all of the things we are going to struggle with and won't be able to do. Whilst it's a step forward that learning differences are being diagnosed in the first place, we've got a long way to go. I've heard a 9-year-old child say they cried when they got their diagnosis because they thought it meant they would never be able to get a job. And whilst the rate of unemployment amongst dyslexics is double the national average, it is all the more reason to celebrate and value all the things that neurodivergent people can excel at. The lack of awareness means not only do newly diagnosed kids and families feel like this is a professional death sentence, but people don't realise being a dyslexic or a neurodivergent person can also come with a host of strengths. Now, on to theatre. It doesn't take a wild amount of imagination to work out why so many of us gravitate to theatre. Theatre is proudly home to the oddballs, the outside-the-box thinkers, the one who come alive when the restrictions of the education system are taken off. We are often the naughty ones. Theatre and the design disciplines allow for 3D, spatial and non-linear thinking. It's where creativity can come from emotion and avoid strict rules. We are all problem solvers, be it balancing budgets, finding the way through a tricky character motivation, or working out how to put a giant spinning praxinoscope on stage and fit someone in it. Obviously, problem solving, creativity and emotional understanding are not qualities solely given to dyslexics. That would be preposterous. But theatre is an environment that welcomes people with these skills, so it's not a surprise to see the statistics like scene change is 22% amongst designers when the national average is 10%. I would also not be surprised if actors, stage managers and set builders had the same popularity. Theatre isn't a perfect playground, and with all the awesomeness that dyslexia gives you, there are still hurdles. Reading plays that are handed to you on pristine white paper with black ink in a blacked out rehearsal room with fluorescent lighting is still the thing that sends dread directly to my heart as quickly as it does physical pain to my head, and the reason why making websites black and white in response to a famous person dying is one of the most stupid ideas ever thought of. And God bless the enthusiastic director who recommends reading this fantastic book a week before we have the chat. It's just not going to happen. I'm certain there are dyspraxic creatives out there who dread the coordination-centred warm-up games with the same furious passion I dread the short-term memory ones. Additionally, there is a specific nightmare to having to balance set, costume and prop requirements at the same time with different deadlines and procedures, often on more than one show, let alone feeling the fatigue pretty much stop your brain from functioning outright. This one is obviously not unique to neurodivergent people. It just gets that extra bit harder when your brain is actively trying to sabotage your ability to do it well. Like with the education system, these are the immediate encounters which make our lives harder. But I, for one, identify my dyslexia as being the reason I can design and the reason I can write, albeit with the inability to see my own mistakes. It is always, always, always up to the individual as to how they want to identify, and whatever they identify is the right answer. People with dyslexia don't have to tell you, or explain themselves, or believe that their talents are anything other than their own. This is very much a personal journey for all of us, and this is just one perspective. But for those who want to celebrate their dyslexia, who welcome the idea that it is part of who they are and it is both rubbish and awesome, then this is for you. If there are any theatre people out there hearing this who want to better support their dyslexic and neurodivergent teams, then there are some ideas and links about support below. But one of the best things you can do is to make your team aware that if they would like to disclose their neurodivergence, then you are happy to talk to them about what adjustments you can do to make their experience more positive. A lot of the things will be really easy, and as a result you will get better work out of us and a happier creative to boot. In case I hadn't made this point early enough already, we are probably there as a result of our thinking differently, so it will benefit everyone to facilitate that. So, I'm proposing a different spin. My brain. My glorious, baffling, brilliant neurodivergent brain has given me the ability to think in 3D, to problem solve, to care with such strength, to look at the wider scale of things and come up with some creative ideas and solutions that I will be proud of for the rest of my life. It's always important to acknowledge and find ways to support the struggles. And I will always have some dyslexic-shaped barriers until the world becomes more accessible for everybody. But for any neurodivergent person in society, if we only flag up the problems, we are only ever seen as problematic. So, I am claiming to be both dyslexic and hypercreatia, a word I've invented in the same way as dyslexia, which roughly translates to mean very creative. Notes, links and resources for dyslexic and neurodivergent people. Number 1. If the theatre you are working at has an access manager, this person can facilitate your needs throughout your time working there. If the well-resourced theatre you are working with doesn't have an access manager, ask why. 2. Exceptional Individuals. Exceptional Individuals is an organisation that provides employment services for neurodivergent people and companies looking to be more neurodiverse. If you are a self-employed neurodivergent person, you might be eligible for free support. Number 3. There is a BBC article called "Does Your Company Nurture Neurodiverse Talent?" that's worth a look. Number 4. Universal Music created a document called Creative Differences. It's a handbook dedicated to supporting people with neurodivergence in the music industry. Number 5. The British Dyslexic Association has a series of videos that explains dyslexia. Go to bdadyslexia, all one word, .org.uk to find them. Number 6. There have been some fonts designed specifically to help people with dyslexia. They work for some, but not all. It's the buffet principle again. Search for Guild Dyslexic and Open Dyslexic to find them. Number 7. The Freelancers Make Theatre Work survey results have been recorded in an audio format for those who prefer audio versions. Number 8. There is an accessibility support within the Arts Council England's grant application system. Email inquiries@artscouncil.org.uk with access support in the subject. An article about hiring people with neurodiversity. Go to www.peoplemanagement.co.uk/long-reads/articles/employers/hiring-neurodiversity. Number 10. Don't Call Me Stupid is a documentary with Kara Tointon. It's available on YouTube in 3 sections. It includes a neuroscientist measuring Kara's brain function against those with a second language. Number 11. If you have a learning difficulty, you are covered by the Equality Act of 2010. Number 12. There is evidence to suggest that both Albert Einstein and Leonardo da Vinci were dyslexic. Number 13. The source of the employment statistic was exceptional individuals.